A new favorite might be emerging for Jimmy Butler because there has been a seismic change in the betting odds for Jimmy Butler. And I believe it makes a ton of sense for this team to potentially be the squad that contacts Miami and acquires Jimmy Butler. Before we talk about who that team is and everything on today's show, make sure you are subscribed because when Jimmy Butler eventually does get traded, we will be going live. We will be breaking it down. So hit that sub button. We are 40 subscribers away from 16,400. Join the channel for the #1 Heat news and rumors on YouTube. All right, that team is the Memphis Grizzlies. You see the Photoshop. I think it works out pretty well. And I think he'd be a beautiful fit in Memphis. It would make me happy to see Jimmy go there and compete with John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. because I do want Butler to succeed at his next stop. But I also want the Miami Heat to be set up for the future, at least in a relatively decent way. And the reason why we're talking about Memphis is because of the odds shifting that I mentioned at the top of today's video. Starting yesterday afternoon on Saturday, January 4th, the Grizzlies became the consensus betting favorites for Jimmy Butler, moving from plus 3,000 to plus 300 in 36 hours. That is an unbelievable shift, folks. Like, I don't know if you guys are keen to the betting game, and I understand that, but that change in line movement is just flat out ridiculous. And here is the full odds now. The Grizzlies lead the way at plus 300. Suns, Warriors, and Rockets are still trailing right there. And it feels like if Vegas is going to change the odds from plus 3,000 to plus 300, there are murmurs around the league, and the books are getting kind of wind that the Grizzlies might be the most ideal landing spot, logical landing spot, and maybe the most aggressive in terms of pursuing Jimmy Butler. We'll discuss what this means for Miami coming up in just a second, but I want to know your thoughts. Predict it for me. What team will trade for Jimmy Butler? Today's pinned comment, so if you get hit with a YouTube ad break, let it play, scroll down, and answer the question. Before I talk about the Grizzlies package, I did want to showcase this quote from Brian Windhorst that came out early on Sunday morning. Windhorst said that the Heat have gotten a lot of calls. The issue is that most of the offers are not that attractive to the Miami Heat. And that doesn't surprise Miami. They were expecting this. Right now, I think you're seeing a lot of teams kind of see how low they might be able to buy Jimmy Butler away from the Miami Heat. So, though my takeaway from this is this. And I know we made a video on Saturday morning talking about how a Jimmy Butler trade could happen soon. That's what Shams Charania said. Windhorst said there's a lot of phone calls connecting to the 305. And then Ethan J. Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports Network said this might be coming to fruition much more sooner than anticipated. But I do think this process may drag out. One thing is very abundantly clear when it comes to Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. They are not going to trade Jimmy Butler just to trade him and move on, wipe their hands, and say we're done here. They know that they need to stay competitive because they don't want to give up unprotected picks in 26 and 2028, which would happen if you miss the postseason this year. They want to make the playoffs this year. So they are going to wait. They are going to see how aggressive, how desperate other teams may be nearing that February 6th NBA trade deadline to see if they can get a best offer. And if they don't, they can take it into the offseason, let Jimmy Butler walk on an expiring contract if he opts out, or if he opts in, they can then trade him during the NBA offseason when they have a full offseason to kind of go through and comb other offers. And coming up in just 1 second, we have two different offers that the Memphis Grizzlies would give Miami if a trade actually happened with the Grizz. We're going to talk about the two options and which one I prefer, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. I play Prize Picks every day, and I'm glad they're back here on the Heat Report because it makes watching sports so much more fun. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up 1,000 times your cash. And with basketball season heating up, PrizePicks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You can play basketball, you can play football, you can go professional, you can go collegiate. And I have an entry that combined both college football as well as professional football. And I got one down thanks to Dylan Gabriel throwing for more than 245.5 passing yards. But I need Mike Evans to get more than 88.5 receiving yards in today's game against the New Orleans Saints. If you're watching this after that game concluded, well, you'll know if I won. If you're watching it during, well, hopefully you can root for me to get a victory. That's why I play PrizePicks. It's the absolute best way to get in on the action. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's just dive right into the Grizzlies Heat and what a trade package may look like. I think there are two clear-cut trade packages that Memphis would offer Miami. One of them is more likely, one of them is less likely. One of them benefits Miami more this year, one of them benefits Miami in the future. This one is the more likely and the one that helps the Heat in the future. The Grizzlies get Jimmy Butler and Alec Burks, and the Heat get a plethora of players. Marcus Smart, Brandon Clarke, John Konchar, who, by the way, has been linked to Miami in the past, and then Luke Kennard, plus, this is the part that is helpful to Miami, a 2026 first-round pick that would give Miami 2 picks in 2026, assuming they make the playoffs this year, as well as flexibility to move 2 or 3 first-round picks this upcoming offseason in a potential trade. But let's talk about what would happen this year for the Miami Heat, because these are the 4 incoming players in that projected trade. The headliner is Marcus Smart. He's making $20 million per season. He has not been good this year. He's also been very injury-prone. So this is not the same Marcus Smart that you have known and loved or hated over the past 3 or 4 years with the Grizzlies and the Celtics. Now, I do think he would be a fun addition to the backcourt to help kind of take the on-ball creation roles away from Tyler Hero, but also be a decent point-of-attack defender to help limit Hero's defensive inabilities. So that's interesting, but he's not shooting the ball well whatsoever. I am intrigued by adding Luke Kennard, who's on a 1-year, $9 million contract. So he's expiring. He would be someone that I'd like to get into the Heat's room based on how good of a three-point shooter he is. And that might also, by the way, provide flexibility for Miami to go out and shop Duncan Robinson before the deadline, because Luke Kennard could just fill his role for $10 million cheaper, and you can argue he's just as good as a shooter as Duncan Robinson. I'm kind of out on Konchar. Brandon Clarke's intriguing, super athletic 4, but are the Heat going to play him at the 4? He can't shoot. He can't space the floor, and I think he's too small to play center. So I don't really have a good feeling about Clarke coming into this locker room, but I would be intrigued by Marcus Smart and Kennard if you move off Duncan Robinson following this trade. But if we're going to be honest, the main reason why you would make that deal with the Memphis Grizzlies is because of that 2026 first-round pick. And if I'm Miami and I'm getting those 4 mid-level players for Jimmy Butler, I am demanding that 2026 first-round pick from Memphis is unprotected. Now, you can make the argument, even if it's a lottery-protected first-round pick, it's probably going to convey. I would expect Memphis, unless they get crazy injured next season, assuming they still have Jimmy Ja, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr., they would be a playoff team. So you'd probably still get that pick to convey, but getting an extra first-round pick to use in a separate trade maybe in the offseason if you want to acquire talent, or just have 2 first-round picks next year, because if you don't make it a move for an all-star, you might be a bad team, and you could use an infusement of some young talent. There is a second trade that I think could happen. This one is very much more clean, cut, and dry. The Grizzlies get Jimmy Butler. The Heat get Desmond Bane and Brandon Clarke. Both of these trades work financially, and this one is intriguing because you are getting a much more adequate player in return for Jimmy Butler and Desmond Bane. Now, this is someone that's expensive. He's getting paid a lot of money over the next 4 seasons. He signed a massive extension where he's getting paid $38 this year, and then it gets $40, $44, $50 million escalating in every single year on annual average basis for Desmond Bane, but you're also getting a much more qualified player to help you win in the next 3 to 4 seasons. You see the numbers on screen. This has been one of the best shooters in the NBA, one of the best scorers in the backcourt for the Memphis Grizzlies. There's a reason why he earned that big-time contract from Memphis in the offseason, where he's getting over $200 million through 4 seasons, basically. He is a talented young guy, and there was a lot of rumors out there before he was drafted 3 or 4 years ago that he could have been taken by Miami. And I remember Desmond Bane seeing a tweet in a DM that he would like to come to the Miami Heat. He is someone that would fit right next to Tyler Hero in the backcourt, can take some of the on-ball pressure away from Tyler. You can't leave Desmond Bane. I know he's shooting a little bit bad from three this season, but he's a really good three-point shooter historically, so you can't leave him. Him and Hero would be a very fun backcourt, and that would help you stay competitive this season, but it would not give you any draft capital. And before I tell you which trade I would prefer, let me know which one you prefer. Type 1 or 2. 1 for the 4-player deal in the first-round pick, or number 2 for getting Desmond Bane and Brandon Clarke just for Jimmy Butler. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Type 1 for 1, type 2 for 2. I'm going to type my 2s. Give me Desmond Bane. Listen, I know a lot of people might want flexibility for the offseason and in the beyond with those draft picks, but guess what? I really like Desmond Bane. Is he a superstar? No. Is he an all-star? Probably not, but he's just below that all-star tier. He's kind of in the same tier as Tyler Hero, and I think the Heat would be a much better regular season team with Desmond Bane because of what he can provide with his ball handling, his playmaking, his shooting, his scoring ability. He's got long or kind of short arms, so he's not the best defender. Him and Hero might struggle in that area, but like I've always mentioned, you aren't having a worse defensive backcourt with Bane and Hero than Rozier and Hero, Duncan Robinson and Hero, so it can't get that bad. If the Heat have an idea and a hypothesis, if you will, to stay competitive this season and make the postseason, well, I think Desmond Bane might be one of the best options out there alongside a Brandon Ingram type, so I'm taking that number 2 package. All right, I'll do it for today's episode. We'll continue to have you covered on every ounce of rumors, news, the Jimmy Butler saga. Hit that sub button, and let's get to 16,400 on today's show.